the one that's been in early access alpha, whatever, for like 3 years now, also uses Unreal 4. But it feels totally different.
30-second quiet.
When the normal BS just won't do. ChaoticRadio.com.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Kinda Gaming Show, episode 2. Dose. Today, we have a very awesome special guest. I'm going to go ahead and patch him through right now. I am pulling double duty today, sound engineering and hosting, so fun times shall be had. Mr. Derek, how are you doing today, my friend? One second, my man. Hold on. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. I'll be right with you.
I think that's it.
Yeah, Andrew's the one who's supposed to be.
Andrew's still learning. It's okay. We'll forgive him.
Sweet Jesus.
There we go.
Andrew.
Is that good? We're good?
Yeah, we're all good.
All right.
We found it.
This is a perfect start to the show. All right. So
Well.
How are you doing, Derek?
I am, I'm exactly how you'd expect. I am, I'm slightly angry, a little irritated. So I'm in a great mood. How are you guys doing?
Slightly irritated. What's going on?
This is just my normal. This is my baseline.
That's just,
okay. Right. A nice slight level of irritation gets me through the day. If it dips too low, I don't know what to do with my hands. So I'm in a real good spot right now.
Oh, okay.
That's
Sounds
awesome.
good.
I thought you were a little upset because I'm not sure if you heard, but the intro to our show was the CGR Undertow music.
Oh, yeah, I did hear that. I get a little nostalgic. I get a little sad when I hear that because I miss it every day. But I also have, it's kind of like PTSD because as soon as I hear that, I go back to like Barbie games and, really bad GBA licensed games. And that was kind of a nightmare. So it's a mixture of good and bad nostalgia for sure.
Absolutely. I can imagine, what was that, 3 reviews a day or was it 2 reviews a day every day for how many years, man?
Well, it started off when they started the channel, it was 3 a day. And that was insane. I remember when I went in for my interview and they're like, how many reviews have you done in the past? And we talked about writing reviews and they're like, yeah, we would need like 3 a day. Oh. And, you go on like a job interview and you just say, yes, sure, whatever. But like in the back of my head, I was thinking, how am I going to possibly do that? But I did it. I did it for years, cranked them out. Unfortunately, as time went on, we needed less content because the channel was doing better and better, so we needed less content.
I understand. So how did you start with CGR Undertow / Classic Game Room? How did you even find out about the interview? How long ago did you start? Can you get some background information on that?
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of writing for a lot of different gaming websites, mostly on like a freelance basis. I was writing for, this was I started like right around the time the Wii was about to launch. So it would have been late 2006 when I kind of started this career, the end of the GameCube life cycle. So I got my first writing job was with a website called Infendo, which was a really popular Nintendo blog at the time. So I started writing there, and then I branched out. I was writing for other websites. I was doing Nintendo reviews for a site called Game Zone. So my writing was getting out there, and then out of the blue one day, I got an email from a company called Classic Game Room. They must have seen my stuff somewhere. and they asked if I would be interested in coming in and talking to them about working with them. And I wasn't like a YouTube guy, so I'd never even heard. This is going to be blasphemy to a lot of CGR fans, but I'd never heard of it. I had no idea what it was.
Wow.
So I mean, I went in and I talked to them, and a couple months later, I was hosting a brand new channel.
That's awesome.
That's
yeah,
to be a lot of
kind of weird.
Responsibilities at first. You come in not being a YouTuber, not knowing much about it, and they give you a brand new channel. It's like, oh, and you have to do 3 reviews a day, and you're the sole content creator. I couldn't even imagine, as somebody who makes YouTube videos and has been doing this for a while, like, I struggle to do a review a week.
But how early on was this? Like, was this before the Let's Play craze happened?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is old school. This was
nice.
2010.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
so this was before, streaming and Twitch and all this kind of stuff. This is back when people actually watched video reviews on YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah. So it was cool though, but it, like you said, it was very hard at first because my whole background, I'm a writer. I had always written my content to be read. And the one thing that you learn, and it took me years to learn, the difference between writing something that is meant to be read and writing something that is meant to be spoken on camera.
Absolutely.
You have, so it's a whole different writing style, and it took me years to really get that down. But yeah, at first it was really kind of difficult because I had no video experience. They brought me in, they liked my writing a lot, and they said, hey, we want to start a new channel because at the time YouTube, unlike today, YouTube was actually kind of a booming place. So they wanted to start a new channel. They liked my writing, and they said, would you like to head the new channel? And I said, this sounds like a really cool opportunity. Little did I know how cool it would be. They were the best years of my life, and I like I said, I miss them a lot.
So where can people find you nowadays? Are you writing for a different company? Do you have your own YouTube channel?
I am I'm what the sports people call a free agent.
I see.
Sports people.
Yeah. So, all those sports ball guys. I am looking for a place to ply my trade. So yeah, I'm kind of just floating around, looking around. I would love to get back into writing about video games at some point. So I'm kind of just floating around and seeing what's out there. So hopefully I'll have something soon. I'm on Twitter. If people want to follow me on Twitter, that's where I keep everything up to date. I'm at Death by Derek. So yeah, nothing going on right now, but hopefully that's going to change real soon.
Well, you're more than welcome to be a permanent co-host for us on the Kind of Gaming Show. We'll pay you 3 corn chips of video.
Dang, I don't even get that.
Okay, that's nice.
You don't.
I was going to say.
You're going to be the highest paid member of this entire crew.
Wow.
Okay, all right. I was going to say I had some contractual things, but the corn, that covers it. That's good.
Hell yeah, corn chips.
So, not to be a downer, but some of us were kind of wondering. I'm not sure if this has ever been publicly commented on, but how did the end of CGR Undertow come? And just as someone who loved the channel, it seemingly came out of nowhere. And
yeah,
it's what I mean, for the lack of a better term, just what happened, my friend?
Well, it's the thing that I think a lot of people didn't realize is that CGR Classic Game Room was a business. It was a company that had a full-time staff of people who made a full-time living. It wasn't just the people you saw on camera. There was a whole team of people behind the scenes that made that place work. And over the years, it became less and less easy to make money on YouTube. YouTube has changed a lot over the years. And when we first started, I mean, in 2010, it doesn't seem that long ago, but in terms of YouTube years, it was an eternity ago. Yeah. It was a whole different world back then.
10 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's really sad to think about. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah. Where'd the time go, so it was a totally different world back then, and we were a pretty big fish in a much smaller pond, Mm-hmm. And if you really think about it, 2010, this was kind of it was pretty early on in the smartphone thing. The camera, like the phones weren't nearly as powerful as they are now. You know, now everyone's got a 4K camera in their pocket. That wasn't the case in 2010. You know, we had a professional studio that set us apart. You know, we had actual equipment to do these things. Now everyone has that in their pocket. So it just, everything kind of changed, and it became less and less profitable as the years went on. And you could kind of, I guess, see the writing on the wall when you were there, because the team kept getting smaller and smaller. And by the end, the last few months, it was just me and Mark.
But still, I mean, you guys were like the innovators of this whole fad nowadays.
Right? I never before you guys ever had a channel make 3 videos a day. I mean, now with the bigger, with the Let's Plays videos like Jacksepticeye,
yeah, you see a lot of those.
You see like 2 videos a day, but it's not the same.
Yeah, because those are like off the cuff, just
like those take like 2 hours at most. If they're, you know, playing a game for an hour, maybe you have to cut some bullshit out of it. Oh, you can curse, by the way, Derek. I'm not sure.
Oh, cool.
By the way, it's relaxed. Like there's just, you know, they cut all that out, but to have a reviewing channel and like that, it's something I feel like YouTube misses. You know, when I was...
we have very few that still do it.
No,
you know,
and, you know, he's a smaller YouTube channel, but the only channel that comes close is probably Defunct Games. They pump out, like, 3 or 4 reviews a week. But even, like, that's nothing compared to what you guys used to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in like, when we were at our max in terms of output, you know, we had, fortunately for me, I didn't actually have to edit the videos. We had a team. So my responsibility was playing the game, you know, doing the kind of due diligence, the actual reviewing, you know, playing the game, getting a sense for it.
You had the best job.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the game.
It really depends on the game.
At least you get to, you know, unleash your opinion if it's bad.
Right. Yeah. And I certainly did that plenty. But yeah, so I would play the game, I would write a script for a review, I would record that script, and then all that video footage I captured and all the audio that I recorded, I would just kind of ship down to our editor. He would get started on putting it all together. I would have editing notes. I would kind of direct him, like, here's where I want this is where I want this. But that freed me up to, as soon as that was done, while he's editing, I'm already working on the next video. So it was almost assembly line in the way we did it when we were really pumping out the videos. And like I said, fortunately, as years went on, you know, the subscriber base got bigger and bigger, and we didn't necessarily need to have that much content. With lesser content, we were still getting the same amount of views. So that when that happened, that's when I thought the channel really hit its stride, because that's when I was able to do some of the more creative stuff and spend more time on the videos. But yeah, in the early days, for sure, we were really pumping them out.
So is that, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say, the more subscribers you got, the less videos you were doing. Is that because you didn't want your videos to get lost, like in the time stream, or did you just want to focus more on the videos you were making? Like,
well, so a lot of this, what? No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, just filling in that, like, did you want to put more time and attention in a video so they would come out because you were getting more subscribers, more viewers, as opposed to just pumping them out just for the sake of getting content out there?
Yeah, I mean, if I had my way, I wanted to spend as much time on one video as possible. I'm a perfectionist to a fault, and it drove me, to be real honest, it drove me crazy, that quota in the early days, because just based on time constraints, I had to kind of rush and get things done sometimes, and I hated doing that. So if it were up to me, I would have done one video a week and really spent a lot of time on it. But we all have bosses, we all have people in charge, and they're to be fair, they were looking at the business element side of things, which was, hey, we need this many views to generate revenue, and the best way to do that is to get a lot of content out. But like I said, once we had more subscribers, fewer videos were getting the same amount of views because we had a bigger audience. So that kind of loosened the reins a little bit, where now I could really kind of sink my teeth in and spend more time on the videos.
As someone who reviews games, I'm actually kind of curious. When you were pumping out those videos and even till the end, how often did you finish the games? Is that something that you were ever afforded the luxury of, or was that something you just couldn't do because of the time constraints?
Yeah, almost never. I would play as much of it as I could. If it were a game that what I like to do is play games, review games that I'd played before. So that I had a very, like, because especially at Classic Game Room, we were reviewing a lot of retro games, reviewing a lot of old games. Right. So a lot of those reviews were games I'd played a million times as a kid, I'd finished, and now I was just kind of refreshing myself, getting back up to speed on it and then reviewing it. But when it comes to like new games, yeah, I mean, there's an unfortunate reality there of, hey, this game just came out. We just got it today. We need to get this review up as soon as possible. Do what you can. And that sucked. That wasn't something that I liked doing, but we just kind of had to. So I would play as much as I could. Generally, if it were a new game like that, I would spend the whole day with that one game. But yeah, actually finishing it, that's a luxury that we often weren't afforded.
So I don't remember the title of the video. But there was this video you made, and you were under a tree, and you kept saying random things. You were going completely crazy, talking about pixies, talking about... Do you know which video I'm talking about?
No, you got to be way more specific, because that could be any number.
That's my daily life, man.
No, I think I know which one. I think that was Danny Phantom for the Game Boy Advance.
That's exactly what it was. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was like, how does... I mean, obviously you may not remember because it was a very specific video, but how does one go from a video review talking about Danny Phantom and just started, like, you're going crazy under a tree, and you're just... Like,
have you seen Danny Phantom?
I mean, I have seen Danny Phantom. I thought it was good. Like, how does your writing process start from going from review to that, and how did your writing process every day go when you were reviewing games? I guess that's a double question.
It kind of evolved, and to be honest, it evolved for a couple reasons. The first one is the less elegant answer. I just got bored. There's only so much, like, what I started to realize when you're reviewing that many games, and we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games that I'd reviewed, I had this theory after a while that there were really only 5 video games, and they were just being remade over and over with different characters and different textures and different polygons, but it's basically the same game. So I started to, like, especially with a lot of these licensed games, it's like, how many times can I say the exact same thing? This is an average generic licensed game. If you're a little kid and you're a fan of the show, you might like it. Otherwise, stay away. Like, I was running out of ways to say the same thing over and over. So one, I was getting bored with just video games being boring. And then two, I had this crazy idea where I thought, there are enough websites taking video games super seriously and breaking down like every little element of every single game. I thought, you know what? I'm going to do something different. I am going to try to, and it sounds crazy, but my impetus was like, if video games are supposed to be fun, why can't we have fun when we're talking about them? Why are we so uptight when we talk about video games? Like, let's calm down. Let's have some fun with it. And so I kind of had this idea where I wanted to try to review games by telling a story. I thought, what if I could write a video that was like a little short movie that was a little narrative, and throughout that narrative, I'm making review points. I'm talking about the game, but within the context of something entertaining, so that, because my thought was, how many people are actually going to watch a Danny Phantom Game Boy Advance review?
Yeah.
But if it's something entertaining and fun and interesting and weird, maybe more people would watch it. So it was just a way to be creative with what was becoming kind of a boring thing, just reviewing the same old games.
Yeah, I understand that. So I'm going to play a little clip from that review for everybody to listen to.
Oh, good.
So
that's what I've always wanted.
Let's see. Oh, wait, hold on.
All the marmosets deep in the land of the trees. The trees. Oh, I know the trees. I know the trees better than even the marmosets do. For I know that the trees are cowards. They're cowardly trees. For they hide. They hide behind the bark. They do. You. And you.
Jeez. Did the game make you go insane? Was it that bad?
Well, and that kind of became the shtick of the channel after a while, was basically the idea was Mark is making me review all these terrible games, and I'm slowly going insane.
Yeah.
And so, you know, not every review was canon that would go along with that kind of storyline, but a lot of times I would do videos where I just went completely insane. One of the best comments that I ever got was someone left a comment on one of my weirder videos and said, I had this on in my bedroom and I switched to porn because it was easier to explain to my mom.
Yeah, makes sense.
Like I just wanted to freak people out and do the weirdest things possible. And actually, it's funny. I was just watching some of my older stuff the other day, and I watched it. And I was like, I can't believe they let me do this. I can't believe, because everything I did had to get approved by, you know, people above me, and they want to make sure, you know, the content was okay and I wasn't going too crazy. And I can't believe some of the stuff I did got approved. I actually, one video I did, my sole objective was to terrify children. I wanted to see if I could do a game review that actually scared children.
Make a whole channel about that.
That's basically what it turned into. Yeah.
So, one question I have is, when did Emma Watson, when did she start becoming such a focal point in your videos? Because I remember at one point you have a standee of her, and you would talk about her and compliment her all the time. Like,
remember, he was going insane.
Well, I know he was going insane, but like, when did that start, and how did you get the idea for that? Do you find her very attractive in real life? I know it's a little bit of a strange question, but like, or was it just a character you were playing?
So a lot of stuff on Undertow was a character. That is not. I'm actually sitting next to the cardboard standout right now.
I can respect that. I have a Boba Fett one that I sit next to every day.
Right. I'm sure it's the same kind of affection.
Oh, absolutely.
No, the Emma Watson thing, I'm not sure. I always, because people ask me about this all the time, and I'm not sure. I can't pinpoint when it happened. It was one of the later Harry Potter movies when I was in the theater, and all of a sudden, she came on the screen, and I was like, "Uh-oh, this is a problem."
It was the seventh
I looked
movie,
at the person.
because she's naked in that one.
It might. I don't know which one it was. I don't want to be creepy, but I think it was definitely earlier than the seventh movie.
Whoa!
Wow. That I was like, all right, I think there's going to be, like, I looked at the guy next to me, I was like, is it just me, or is, like, Hermione's a prospect? Something's happening. And, you know, and then it just happened. I fell in love with Emma Watson in real life. And actually, this is a true story. She was filming, I live in Pittsburgh. She was filming Perks of Being a Wallflower in Pittsburgh. And I knew a guy who worked on the set of the film. Oh. And so he talked to her, and he said, hey, E-dubs, as I like to call her. I have this friend he didn't say obsessed, but I'd like to think he didn't say that. But he asked, like, would you be okay with restraining orders and everything if he came by the set to meet you?
With restraining orders, of course.
So apparently she was all into it. She laughed. She's like, oh, yeah, have him come by. I'll get a picture with him. And so it was all set up. I was supposed to meet Emma Watson, and I didn't go because I was terrified.
But you make YouTube videos for the world to see and judge you.
Right. This is correct.
He's like, this is Emma Watson.
I didn't go. And you know, I've regretted it to this day, but at the same time, I like to tell myself that she's a little intrigued because I'm probably the only person who's ever stood up Emma Watson.
Damn.
So somewhere in the back of her mind, she's like, oh, I wonder what that was all about. And like, someday it'll come up. And I feel like I've laid a good groundwork for the future. So that's where Emma and I are right now.
Oh, okay.
I like it.
I love that. So at some point, if she's ever talking about people who ever stood her up or rude, in the back of her head, she will always remember that one guy.
And she'll picture like David Beckham.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, have you seen Derek's hair? It's pretty perfect.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. That she'll be thinking like, oh, that crazy ginger who always tweets me.
So to get off.
But no, that was a real. Anyway, that's a real thing that I started to incorporate into the videos because it was so ridiculous, and it ended up being a kind of a key thing on Undertow. She's in most Undertow videos, I would say.
That's hilarious.
I like it.
It's like, for you, it's Emma Watson. For Mark, it's the Vectrex.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
So what have you been playing recently, man? What have you been up to lately? What kind of games are you into in the last few years since we haven't been able to watch your reviews? What have you been playing, man?
Well, once I left CGR, I kind of went on a gaming detox. This is
Fair.
yeah. I mean, this is going to sound weird to some people, but when you do it as long as I did, video games kind of became work in a weird way. So I couldn't even look at video games for a while, and also because I missed the job. It was kind of hard in a way to pick up video games because I genuinely missed it so much that it brought back memories, and it was just like better to leave it alone. But then something happened. Then I started living what I like to call the Switch life, gentlemen. That Nintendo Switch, oh boy. That's my little buddy. I take it everywhere. It's my little, I can't say enough about it. I am totally living the Switch life.
Yeah, it's
so
totally
it's
awesome.
really good. It's gotten me back into video games in a big way. I am all about the Switch.
Have you named it?
I haven't named it because, I don't want to be creepy, says the guy sitting next to an Emma Watson.
So what?
But I thought about, maybe naming it Hermione. But again, I don't want. Things are already weird enough. I don't want to,
Fair.
So what games have you been playing on it? I imagine Breath of the Wild, right?
Breath of the what?
I have put. What is that? Is that a new Mario game or something? I haven't heard of Breath of the Wild.
God of War.
Yeah, it's the new God of War game.
Yeah. No, I've poured. I think I'm close to 300 hours into Breath of the Wild.
Damn.
Jesus.
Yeah, that game. Every so often throughout my life, I've gone through. It's kind of cyclical with gaming, where I fall out of gaming and then something brings me back in.
Oh, okay.
So during the N64 era, I kind of lost interest, and then Ocarina of Time happened. During the GameCube era, kind of lost interest, and then Metroid Prime happened. There's always a game that brings me back, and Breath of the Wild has been that game again for today. That game has revitalized my interest in gaming in a way that I wasn't sure would be possible again. It is a masterpiece, and for years, Ocarina of Time was my favorite game of all time, and I never thought that would be topped. It breaks my heart to say it, but Breath of the Wild has done it.
It's the same franchise.
That game is,
Yeah, right.
yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm the guy, obviously. But yeah, Breath of the Wild has just been unbelievable. And I wrote a story about Breath of the Wild that I'm pitching to various websites. So hopefully someone will publish it soon. Because I have written a really cool story about it. Anyway, so that's a little tease. Hopefully someone will publish that soon, and I'll be able to share it.
Can you give us a little more, or do you want to save it? Totally understand if you want to save it. That's all right, but we would love to know.
No, it's cool. I mean, I would hate to build it up and then it not get published, but I'm hoping it does. So I basically, and this is kind of going to get a little real here. When I left Classic Game Room, my friends started to notice like something's wrong with Derek, and I kind of just ignored it. Like, I'm fine, everything's fine. But it turns out I was really depressed. Losing that job and kind of losing everything that came with it. For years, I actually said this in the very last video I did on the channel. For years, I was Derek from the game room, and now just going back to being Derek was really hard. So I actually battled some pretty serious depression, and this year it really started to kind of take over my life a little bit. And just at the time when everything around me was kind of falling apart, Breath of the Wild was released. And it was this amazing timing that at the time I didn't think anything of it, but it was almost poetic the way that game was released when I needed it most. This old kind of childhood friend, Zelda, Link, came along right when I needed an old friend more than ever. And that game really helped me not only battle depression, but come to terms with it. And so I wrote a story about kind of my fight with depression and kind of some of the things I went through, and how, of all things, the new Zelda game actually helped me cope with it and battle it. So hopefully that story gets picked up. I think it's really cool.
That's awesome, man.
Sounds
I'm really happy to
excellent.
hear about that.
Yeah, that's like actually perked my
really
interest
cool.
huge out there.
Have you? I mean, that sounds like something
Yeah,
that
yeah.
could go beyond the scope of just a gaming website. To be honest with you, like I could imagine that being posted in Forbes or something. I mean, not Forbes.
Not
Forbes.
Forbes, not-
You know what I'm saying?
but
Like
something, yeah.
like a major journal, like a New York Journal or
Yeah, I
something
can see
like
that
that.
too. Like, cause it's beyond gaming at that point. It's about like the therapy of hobbies
But
and everything like
That's
that.
what's really
Exactly.
cool is that games have that power.
Mhm.
Like for me, Final Fantasy 14 was the one that did that for me. You know, we dealt with 3 Final Fantasy 13s, but then
Gee, I know,
14, like
Jesus.
it got me through a tough time too. So I understand where you're coming from with the Breath of the Wild.
Well, I guess you know.
Yeah, it's incredible because. No, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. You're the guest. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, yeah, it's just funny how when you, like, your world seems so, you know, especially when you're depressed, the world around you just really seems to be dark and hopeless. And when I would play Breath of the Wild, it's just the opposite, you know, like that game is so colorful and bright, and it had so many little lessons that seemed to apply to what I was going through, that again, at the time I wasn't even aware of it, but as I was exploring this fictional world, I realized it was helping me come to terms with the real world. And I was taking lessons away from this pretend place that I could hopefully apply in the real place that I was having such a hard time in. So it was, yeah, that game will, for not only for the fact that it's a beautiful video game, it's masterfully made. Forget all the stuff we usually praise video games for. Just on that personal level, for me, this game is always going to be very, very significant.
That's awesome. For me personally, that's like the best thing about video games is what they can do. Like, I mean, in the real world, is someone psyche
Right.
like that, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Mhm.
There's nothing better about a game when it touches your soul. I know that's a little
No, it's
hokey
true.
to say,
No.
but it's true.
Absolutely.
You know, I think everybody, not everybody, but a lot of gamers probably have that game for them. Something that changed them or shaped them or even saved them in this case, with everything that's going on in their personal lives. For you, it's Final Fantasy 14. For Derek, it's Breath of the Wild. You know, it's an amazing thing, honestly. To a lot of people on the outside, it may seem dumb, this hobby, but it unifies us, and it's something that we can share with people, and it's something that just it brings you joy, because in the everyday world, things can be really dark, but you could always transport yourself to a bright, stunning game.
And that's something a lot of people that don't play games don't realize.
Exactly.
Like,
Right.
I found myself recently trying to explain to people, like, games have stories, if you didn't know.
Yeah, it's
And
not
they're
just
very
kill
good.
people all the
Yeah,
time.
and it's not just Call of Duty Shoot a Man. It's
Exact-
really good.
Exactly. And, you know, like, I can enjoy the Call of Duty Shoot 'em Man just
Can
as
you?
much as the next person. Yeah, you know, I enjoy it. It's not my favorite.
Yeah,
But
I have a fair amount of life gone to Call of Duty actually.
It's all good.
yeah, exactly. But, you know, for every one of those, there are beautiful masterpieces, like Breath of the Wild, or for me, like Kingdom Hearts. I know that story makes no goddamn sense, but it just touched me, you know? It touched me in places.
It's got a colorful cast and like memorable moments. It's like, you know, the big picture might be a little lost on Kingdom Hearts, but it's like the heart is there, you know.
That's
Oh, that,
yeah.
that like
was very
that
punny of
almost
you.
yeah. I was like that. I didn't even try to be. That almost sounded like poetic just speaking. That was funny.
Exactly. So
That
honestly,
was
man,
beautiful. That was beautiful.
I'm so glad to hear that this game has done that for you, my friend. And yeah, man. Have you been playing anything else on the Switch? I recently, you know, they recently came out with that Mario Rabbids game, which when I looked at it at first, I heard of it, I thought it looked stupid. And then I watched a review from Easy Allies, and it looks like XCOM, but
Yeah,
Mario
it's
and
like
Rabbids.
Yeah, it was weird for me too, looking at it, because it was like, to me the Rabbids are like the video game equivalent of the Minions.
Yeah. Except that it's
Yeah.
actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
Those games are actually kind of fun.
Yeah,
That game looks so fun to me. Like I've never done a 180 so much on a game oh, that looks stupid. They're gonna just hurt Mario with it. And then I saw the gameplay. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I think I want this.
You don't hurt Mario. Mario fixes you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Well, it seems like that's kind of the consensus from what I've read about it is, you know, when it was announced, everyone rolled their eyes. What a lame crossover. But then when people actually got their hands on it, they're like, oh, wait, this is actually pretty cool. So I haven't played it yet, but I'm actually, my interest is definitely peaked. I'm very interested in playing that game, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
That's fair. So the Switch library isn't huge right now. What is it? It's less than 50, right? Less than 40?
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, they've got a lot of classic ports
That's
for like the Neo Geo and
Yeah.
stuff in there. But
If
for the
we're
most part,
talking about
yeah.
like physical releases, like
Yeah,
that you're selling at a store,
somewhere in that
Yeah.
ballpark, yeah.
right? So other than Breath of the Wild, what other huge sellers have there been? Like I don't have a
Isn't
Switch.
Splatoon.
Splatoon 2, right?
Yeah.
What else, Connor?
Arms was
Mario Kart's a big
Mario
one.
Kart 8 Deluxe, Street Fighter 2 Ultra,
Oh,
Switch
Yeah.
Edition
the
is
final challenge.
the final challengers. That's
Did
right.
you guys see that they're porting it to Super Nintendo or re-releasing it? Not porting it.
Oh, you mean the
Street Fighter 2.
Oh yeah, it's on this SNES Classic.
No, they don't know. Capcom, they just said earlier today they're re-releasing it on Super Nintendo and making new cartridges.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, what?
Yeah,
Are they going to sell
Oh,
Super
that's cool.
Nintendos?
That's cool.
I don't know, man, but they're reprinting them and the labels they're either bright red like the Carnage game that
Yeah.
came out, or they're glow in the dark. And
So is
they're
it just for
green.
like collector items or?
Let me look up the specifics,
If it's a
but
functioning cartridge and
Yeah.
everything,
it is. It'll play in your Super Nintendo.
That's so cool.
Well, how many
actually,
people actually have a Super Nintendo?
Ooh.
let's hope they make more product of that than Nintendo normally makes of their own things.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, they're having Street Fighter 2 on their Classic Edition.
Yeah.
So I just looked it up. They're re-releasing for the 30th anniversary edition. There's going to be a limited 5,500 of them. So more of these than Nintendo Classics.
D-
It's going to cost it's going to cost $100. It'll have brand new inbox. Actually, will play in your SNES. Will come with foil, instruction booklets, retro package, in surprises. So clicking on it, it looks like it's going to come with some retro posters and
Sick.
some goodies.
They have a release date like to pre-order or is it?
Shipping begins in late November of this year.
But that's shipping. What about ordering?
Ordering, you can buy them right now.
Oh.
Oh, I gotta like give me a second.
Give me a sec.
Hold up.
So that's really cool to me, man. Like this is the first time I can actually think of a mainstream company re-releasing a game like this. Like you see
Yeah, there are
some-
independent developers who randomly come out with stuff for old consoles.
Exactly. Like I know recently Night Watch. Is that
Yeah.
the game it's called?
On NES?
No, not Night Watch. It was a Sega CD game originally.
Oh, a Night Trap.
Night Trap.
Oh yeah, and
That just
yeah,
recently got a physical re-release.
on the
Mhm.
Vita and the PS4. Yeah,
Which that's just that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Why?
by limited run games.
As a joke?
No,
No.
like
it was the 25th year anniversary.
it
and they-
kind
good.
of was though. It's kind of a meme going around
is
on
a
like
meme.
on like the collector Facebook pages and whatnot. And I think because I'm part of one of the more popular Facebook groups for the Vita fan base, and it was an ongoing joke of stuff that they wanted for LRG to make, and then
It is a joke.
LRG was just like, "Here you guys go."
That's crazy. But other than that, which that's kind of weird. Not many companies release their games on old school consoles.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So I'm very excited for this.
Now, that's really expensive to do.
Well, that's why they're
Yeah,
charging
yeah,
Yeah,
$100.
it's actually really expensive
'cause
I
they
think,
have
for
to
them
get
to
the-
do that. Yeah.
Right, because they have to get the boards, they have to get the old tech and the printing. Like it's a weird process. Actually, thinking about it.
What do you guys think of the $100 price
Yeah.
point?
Oh, that's totally fair. Like new games back in the day were still like $60 to $80. So it's like
So if you were getting basically it's like a collector's edition for Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo, right?
honestly, the fact that it's functioning makes it even more of a deal. Because like I could also
Better than Mighty Number 9.
I could totally see
That's not
them
hard.
giving a cartridge with like the manuals and everything, and then it has like a USB
code
drive with the
or
ROM or
something?
something. Yeah, but the fact that it's a functioning cartridge, like,
Yeah.
that to me, that's like wow, that's actually seems for a collector's item, that's pretty cheap, honestly. It's something so limited too.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. So going back, I know we were talking about Breath of the Wild and stuff, but have you been playing anything else recently, Derek, or just laying on the Switch stuff?
Well, yeah, just laying on the Switch stuff, but I've been playing a lot of. I've been playing some other stuff on the Switch too. My favorite thing about the Switch is that in a time when every other platform is basically ignoring local multiplayer,
Yes.
Nintendo did a console that is literally all about local multiplayer. So I bought Bomberman just so I could take Bomberman anywhere I wanted. And it's so cool. Like the single player element, real boring, not much to it. But just to be able to take Bomberman anywhere I want, and here are 4 controllers, and now all of a sudden I'm in the park playing 4-player Bomberman. That's unbelievable. So cool. Yeah, I've been doing. Yeah, so I mean Bomberman for multiplayer, Mario Kart for multiplayer, and everything else is so far has been on the eShop. I'm really enjoying Mighty Gunvolt Burst. Someone just mentioned Mighty Number 9. This is a little better, but it's similar, but it's actually good. From what I understand, Mighty Number 9 wasn't very good. When that game came out and everyone kind of crapped on it, I got really sad and hid in the corner and didn't play it.
That's how I felt watching the gameplay.
But I'm enjoying.
That's how you feel watching the gameplay?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the new one.
I mean, is Mighty Number 9 getting a Switch release?
I have no idea. I'm like on top of those things, but
yeah.
as far as I don't think so, and I don't know. That's one I don't look at.
Switch releases have been coming, like, they don't have any duds so far.
Yeah,
like of all the major releases that have come out, like they've all at least done decently.
They've all been good.
Yeah, and they have the whole Nindies thing, which they just had a conference yesterday about it.
Yeah, they announced the Super Meat Boy 2.
Yeah, and also No More Heroes, a new.
No More Heroes 3. That looks
good.
good.
I heard about that.
So excited for that. So excited for No More Heroes 3.
Yeah, that's the one I was like, oh damn, okay, that's a way to end this little Nindies thing where it was like, here's some other things that no one's heard of, but they're exclusive. It looks cool, and then it was like, and by the way, No More Heroes.
Cool.
I really wish they would bring back Mad World. I'm not sure if you guys played that
on the Wii.
On the Wii, that would be so awesome.
It was like Gears of War on a Nintendo system.
Black and white.
Yeah,
black and white.
It was like that, but completely stylized.
It was like Sin City, the comic
mm-hmm.
books.
I wish they would make a Switch, like Mad World 2. Did they make Mad World 2? Mad World 3?
No, just be the second one.
Okay, they need to do that.
No, they never did.
Yeah, it was. I think it was really well received. It was kind of like the GTA Chinatown Wars of the Wii, like where it was a really good game, but people just didn't buy it.
Yeah, I remember I bought it from GameStop way after it came out for 99 cents. And usually Nintendo games not only do they retain their value, but they're expensive.
They go up in value.
Yeah.
So when I saw this game that's like really well reviewed for $1, I was just very confused. I'm like, did it just not age well? So I played it. No, it's. I mean, motion controls suck, but it's one of the best games on that console.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love any game that does something creative artistically, like with the visuals, and especially on the Wii. That was an underpowered system compared to the competing consoles, but it was powerful enough that you look at a game like Mario Galaxy. If you got creative with that system, you could make some really beautiful games. You just had to have some creativity and have some ingenuity. And that was one of those games where that Muramasa, Mario Galaxy, I thought these were some of the prettiest games of their generation, and they were on the least powerful system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it forces the developers to get, like as you said, creative. They can't just.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even now though, those games still look great. But games that try to use the most powerful engine at the time, they've aged horribly.
Oh yeah.
There's
like some weird ones. Like, I think you said you enjoyed it, but Resistance to me.
Oh, I really enjoyed that.
It's very long in the tooth when you look at it, though. Like you could see its age.
Yeah.
It's like
long in the tooth.
Yeah.
it's it's aged like milk to you.
Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't a fan of it. It was too slow and clunky in my opinion.
See, and I really enjoyed it.
But yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like you could see the graphics at the time. Like whereas if you look at in the same era, something like Killzone 2, that's still because they had a kind of style going on for it and that like black filter and all that. It still looks decent.
Yeah, there's certain styles like Beautiful Joe that came out on the exactly cell shaded comic book look. It will look good forever, but in 20 years.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, realism ages. But art, taking an artistic approach. I think Super Nintendo games, a lot of those Super Nintendo games look prettier now than stuff that's brand new, just because the sprite work is just unbelievable, and that doesn't age. That still looks great.
Yeah, I almost said the same thing because I was just about to say that it's like you look at N64 and it's like okay, you see the polygons and it's like okay, that's an old game. But then you look at Super Nintendo's, Chrono Trigger, Donkey Kong Country, all that stuff. It's
I was
like
going to say Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, it's like you look at old school F-Zero. It's always
pretty much every game
that
that's
look.
not Star Fox.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, Star Fox. Star Fox was an interesting one. I mean, it's a cool fact that they had it playing there. It was like one of the first 3D home
Well, I was going to bring
games.
up Mario Kart,
But
the original one.
oh, I actually enjoy old school Mario
Yeah?
Kart. Is that like but I think it's more of a
Nostalgia thing.
not so much nostalgia, but like tradition thing. Because me and my brother, we both of us, we just play old school games together. And old school Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo was one that like basically during Christmas, New Year's time when we were just hanging out as a family, we would be playing that one because we both enjoy it. And it's like I continued playing Mario Kart, he didn't, and that's the one that he still can play. So it's like it's got a soft spot. Maybe that's why.
I feel you. I kind of feel that way about Mario Kart 64.
Mine's Crash Team Racing.
Oh, I love CTR, man.
You can't beat that.
That's the best kart racer in my opinion.
It's up there. The only thing I think, if I remember correctly, if you play with multiple people, it's only you. Like there's no NPCs or I guess AI.
Yeah, that's true, but it also makes things a little bit more personal.
Very personal.
So when you hit somebody with the missile, you know it wasn't the computer. You hit them with that damn missile.
Yeah, that's pretty gnarly.
It's basically CTR versus mode is the equivalent of 1v1 and on Melee on
as far as kart
Final
races
Destination.
go, I'm tossed between Diddy Kong Racing and Double Dash.
I was never
Double Dash.
Double Dash.
I like Double Dash. That's my favorite Mario Kart.
What about you, Derek? What's your kart racer of choice?
Oh man, Double Dash is really good.
Nice. Yeah.
But I'm such a Mario Kart fan that anytime a new one comes out, I think that's the best Mario Kart.
That's
I never, because I always feel like this one handles a little bit better. It looks a little better. So right now Mario Kart 8 is my favorite. Although I'm sure if I put in Double Dash, especially for the track design, I remember Donkey Kong Mountain. That feeling you get of. Somehow it really created a sense that you were both going up the mountain and then down the mountain. And that was really cool. That kind of verticality and height was kind of new to Mario Kart. So that one definitely has a soft spot for sure.
Yeah,
the biggest thing for me was just the fact that you can have two characters and your kart changes based on the characters you pick. And I like customization.
And it just had its own... It's very unique in its feel.
Yeah.
But like what Derek was saying, how he says the newest one is always like the best one.
Right.
I see where he's coming on that because they always take the best maps and they bring them up to speed to the new game. It's like the
and
newest
always
game
add
is
something new, like motorcycles in the Wii.
Right.
And the next one they have like hang gliders and 8 and stuff. So they bring new things in there, but I don't think Double Dash nothing's come close to like
aside
Double
from
Dash.
maps. It's like
because it was just unique in being able to switch characters. You can play 2-player on the same cart. There are a lot of cool things about it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Double Dash was way ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like it's something that if Nintendo re-released, people would gobble that shit up.
Oh, yeah.
So
they updated it to be like 8.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, just remaster it. That there are some games, it's weird. I'm always half and half, and maybe we can talk about this in terms of games remastering. I always want these companies to remaster games, but at the exact same time, if it's a game I don't like, I'm always like, oh, how lazy. What are they doing?
At the same time, like remastering games, I mean, Crash Bandicoot didn't need a remake, but the remake, in my opinion, I really like it.
yeah.
But a lot of people don't like it.
Isn't because I like everyone I've met has been like, yeah, on as when it comes to
It's
Crash.
like
They're just like
hesitant, like,
fun. They're just like
yeah.
No, like they've just been happy about it. So it's like it's like I haven't seen anyone be like, "Oh, that game sucks, dude." It's like there's people that are just like, "This is cool."
I've heard people talk about how like the original's better though.
Right.
And I think that's a little
some
interesting.
people.
So it's like, where does the line get drawn? It's like, do you want them to remake a game you really like, and then screw it up, or remake a bad game and make it good?
Yeah, it's a remake or re-break. I think I've heard the term. Yeah. So,
Right.
So I know you talked about.
But I think Nintendo's in a.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say I think Nintendo's in a really interesting spot right now where, they're re-releasing a lot of these Wii U games on the Switch. Mario Kart. There are rumors about Smash Brothers. And normally I would be opposed to that because it's like I remember when they announced Mario Kart 8 coming to the Switch. My first reaction was, I want Mario Kart 9. I played Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. I loved it, but now I want Mario Kart on the new console. That's the way it's always been.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like about it is that the Wii U did so poorly that there are a lot of people who didn't get to play these great Wii U games. So it's kind of reintroducing these games to a new audience because the Switch is actually doing really, really well, whereas the Wii U did not. So I feel like it's a chance for these great games to get the audience they deserve. So I'm all for it.
Absolutely, and I think that Bayonetta 2
was
should be released.
Yeah, because I didn't. I loved Bayonetta 1,
It was
and,
one of my
and I didn't
favorites.
play 2 because I passed on the Wii U.
Honestly, the first one's better.
Yeah,
in my
okay.
opinion. But the second one is still fun. It's nice to have another Bayonetta.
I was
But
like,
it sucks it's on the Wii U.
I'm still weirded out about her hair being short.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't played. I don't know if it's
Takes some getting
story
used
driven
to.
because
No.
it's not story driven.
No.
See, that was my problem too. It's like her suit is her hair, and now her hair is
Exactly.
no longer connected to
There's
the
some
suit.
weird characters in it too that I'm not too big of a fan of. It's very bright and colorful in Nintendo fashion, but it's still nice to play another Bayonetta game.
Mm-hmm.
I just hate that it's on the Wii U, which is the only reason that you would have one is for Bayonetta 2.
I mean, no, there's some other releases on there. I mean, I bet people
There are
bought
some.
Wii U's when Smash came out, right?
Yeah, but it was also on the 3DS.
There's no Animal
Yeah.
Crossing either.
No, there could definitely have been more on the Wii U,
But yeah, there's there's games to play on the Wii U, but there was never like a solid I need a Wii U right now because there's all of these games that are like
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it introduced Splatoon, but now on the
That's
Switch
true.
you got Splatoon 2.
Do you guys think Splatoon is the Wii U's biggest success?
I'd say so. That and Smash.
Well, no, but Smash was already a thing.
Oh, like a new thing?
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
then Splatoon.
Yeah, it has to be Splatoon,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
yeah, it's that's definitely like it's still here and it's popular. It definitely has like I'm weird on Splatoon. Like I haven't gotten a liking to the control yet. I'm still trying to. I love the characters. I love the art. I'm trying
That's
to
a
make
big
it grow on
part
me.
of it is the characters and art. Like, they have the idols that everyone's in love with.
Mm-hmm. And what were you?
I
about
think
to say there?
Splatoon I think Splatoon is definitely Nintendo's best success story, maybe in a few consoles in terms of new IP. People always criticize Nintendo for using the same IP over and over. Of course, it's kind of a catch-22 because Nintendo's like the Disney of gaming. Of course, Disney's going to make new Mickey Mouse products. Of course, Nintendo's going to make new Mario stuff all the time. Like, that's just the way Nintendo is beloved because of those characters. So they're obviously going to use them over and over again. But what I loved about Splatoon is just Nintendo finally creating something that this time really seems to have caught on. Pikmin on the GameCube, it caught on, but it didn't catch on in the kind of way that Splatoon seems to have, where Splatoon seems like a really popular game, and it's nice to see Nintendo still at this point able to crank out a new IP that at least seems like it's going to last.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like I was saying, it's big on the aesthetics, like the character design,
Right.
everything,
It has
more
a
so
look.
than the gameplay. Like, every time I see it, people are just walking around the town like, oh, look at all the clothes I can get.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's really cool. It's a fun little fashion designer game, but it's also a third-person shooter.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like you were
The most
saying about
Nintendo thing I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah.
I know, right?
as going on like Pikmin. Yeah, it's a strange one, Pikmin, because the people who like Pikmin
They
love
love
Pikmin. Right? And
Well, Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon, same thing.
yeah, and it's like I think it feels like anyone who has played those games loves them, but not many people make the effort to play those games.
Right. You kind of have to just know about it or be lonely enough to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially Harvest Moon.
Yeah.
Like
A lot of
Animal
time.
Crossing has a little bit more mainstream popularity, I would think. Not a ton.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely.
But
got more.
Harvest Moon, most people, I mean, I would say half of people don't even like that play games don't even know what the fuck that is.
Especially when you tell them
Which
it's
is
a farm
funny.
simulator.
Exactly.
Well, when they play Farmville on Facebook,
Yeah.
people get addicted to that.
Right.
So play Harvest Moon instead.
Yeah. Or like you tell someone who doesn't know about Harvest Moon, and then they think Farmville, and they're just like, why would I
want to
that?
play
It's
that?
better. It's better.
I mean, I've okay.
Yeah, way
It's not an
better.
isometric view.
So for whoever's watching, as you know, me and Brandon used to work at GameStop, right? There was this one guy who came in and he pre-ordered Farming Simulator 2017 or
yeah.
18, something
Either
like
way.
that.
I was 17, but yeah.
Yeah, and he had bought every year previous to that, and I tried asking, I'm like, what is it that you like it? And he goes, it's a really good game to play while you get high.
Oh.
You just sit there and you're farming, and that's all you do, and you buy new tractors, and you're like, all right, it's time to get the carrots.
I feel like that's gotta be you know Nathaniel. I feel like that's gotta be his reasoning behind Crusader Kings 2, because he has
Everybody has those games.
dude. He has
I don't
like
smoke, man.
thousands of hours into Crusader Kings 2, and it's like I've played it and I could see its appeal, but it's like he has thousands of hours.
That's
in it.
crazy. I mean, I have 300 hours in Dark Souls 3 on my second character, but I still don't think that's normal. It's Dark Souls.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't really talk because I probably have like a ridiculous 10,000 more on Minecraft to be serious.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
because I own it on every system too. It's one of those games where it's like, oh, I'm sitting in the dentist's office. Let me just pull up my phone and start building, and or on the Vita, or I
makes
literally like, it's one of those comfort games that I play. Like I was telling you about Doom last week.
That's how Bloodborne is to me.
Oh yeah.
When I'm just like half asleep and I want to play something, I'll turn on Bloodborne.
That's a lot more engaging than
It's-
mine. Now I feel like
If you
I'm a
play it
wimp.
as much as I know, if you play it as much as I do, it is that. Just mindless. All right, R1.
That's crazy to me. So after last week, I was telling Brandon earlier, I went back and tried to play Bloodborne again because you guys were calling me a wimp.
No, I didn't. I just said you got to try it.
I gotta get good, and I
Get
tried,
good.
and I just died again for
You
2
did not-
hours.
you did not.
I
get
did
good.
not achieve the minimum goodness to
Yeah, you
get
die.
anywhere in Bloodborne.
It's part of the
You
game.
got.
I've been stuck in the same place for like a total of 6 playing hours.
I'll join you and I'll.
You'll join me, you'll watch me play, and you're just gonna be like,
No!
oh, this guy.
You can summon friends. You didn't know that?
I don't have PS Plus at the moment.
I don't think you need. We'll talk about this later.
All right, we'll talk. Right. All right. So, Connor,
Yes.
what have you been playing lately?
It's like the same answer as last week. Doom, like
Nice.
Doom and more Doom.
Nice.
No, actually, So I really want to play Quake Champions. I have not afforded the $30 yet to drop into it, but
It's really good.
as to like make up for that, I was like, let me just like play more Quake Live and get wrecked on there a bit, and then I've been playing the multiplayer on Doom. Is a lot of people talk hate on it, but it's still fun.
I talk crap on it.
Yeah, it's like there's no, it's not, it's like a half arena, half flick shooter.
But it's not like you play
There's
through
no
the campaign.
pickups. Yeah, the
you,
campaign's amazing.
You play
Yeah.
through the campaign and going, oh man,
Yeah.
this game is so much fun. And then you play the multiplayer like, this is a different game.
It's totally different, yeah, because it's not. It's
But it was
not,
made by a different developer.
It
I
just
think.
doesn't have that arena feel to it. It's got like it's a weird mix in between the two. So it's like I don't know if it's like because there's no weapon pickups.
Yeah.
There's still the vertical movement, still fast paced, but it's like at the same time you have your two weapons.
And it's silent. There's no music. I mean,
Yeah, right.
What makes the campaign so
Um,
great is that soundtrack.
the actual soundtrack. But I tried playing the Unreal Tournament pre-alpha thing again. It hasn't changed in 3 years, so it made me sad.
So we will hear more about that. We are going to take a little break. There's going to be some commercials from our sponsors, some show promos. So we'll be back in the second hour with Derek Buck, and at that time we'll be accepting live call-ins if anyone wants to ask him any questions, and we'll be back very soon.
I'm here. No, that's cool. Cool. I love that Sami Zayn. I like that. Yes. Perfect. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. Wait, you know what? Wait, do you have Bret the Hitman Hart? Yeah, if you can do that, because he's my all-time favorite. So if you've got the Hitman, that would be ideal. Sweet.
All right, 30 seconds all quiet.
I think we've got the right
Chaotic Radio, because the rest is just a waste of time.
Oh yeah, we are live. We are back with some Bret Hart theme music as we're on request from Mr. Derek. That's awesome, man.
Oh, it gets me pumped up.
Yeah, you ready to make your entrance, man?
Oh, I'm so pumped up. I'm ready to slap some bulls with a sharpshooter. Oh, it fires me up.
All right, we are back for the
Listen,
second hour.
He's the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Like, I'm so fired up right now. Let's take some calls.
Absolutely. So anyone who wants to call in, you can call in live at 909-360-8330 if you want to ask us or Derek any questions, or if you you just want to talk about whatever you want. I'll try to screen the calls, but if not, well, sorry, Derek.
That's all right.
All right, so before we know, oh, look at that. So I'm gonna go ahead and Connor, go ahead and talk about what games you were playing because we may have our first phone call.
Oh, okay. So back to games that I have been playing, like I mentioned, like it's always do. Like, I've also been playing that handy game known as Going Back to School.
Oh,
Yeah. So,
me too.
yeah, but
Only this time the game is real.
this time it's real.
What are
and
you in
we're
school
not
for?
talking. I'm business, English.
Good.
All that fun, glorious, like.
It's okay. My school
Stuff.
isn't much more interesting.
Yeah, I don't. It's like it's life at
Sure.
that point. Yeah, no, it should. I could end up. I want to turn it into something nice. You know, it's to have the credentials to be like, yeah. See, I could do things.
Absolutely. See, mine's a very particular.
I can do things.
Yeah, it's like here's a piece of paper that says I could do things that I wanted to.
That's funny.
Right.
But yeah, as far as gaming goes, I've been playing, just kind of I play like the same stuff and then I'll branch out when a new thing comes out, and then if it ends up getting into the niche of games that I continue to play, it's like then it's now been added to the pinnacle.
I'm same way.
I tend to play a lot of like retro stuff though, like when it comes to just like if I'm not gonna play, what's hot or what's my usual, it's like I'll just go back. Like I pull up my NES Classic like frequently, and I like playing Balloon Fight for just
Yeah, I remember we
like,
talked about that.
Yeah, just
Oh
vegging out.
yeah.
All right, so we got our first caller. Jeffrey is calling in, and I'm gonna go ahead and patch him on through. All right, Jeffrey, you are live.
Yes, hi. I have a question for the gentleman with the beard and black shirt.
Hey,
Oh, and black hair because you two seem to be twins.
I'm pretty sure that's Steve, even through the voice.
You have a magnificent beard.
Thank you.
All right, so what's your question?
Oh, he's gone.
Oh, and they're gone. Well,
Just to say magnificent beard. Well, that works. That's always something. I
comment.
I feel like that was Steve, honestly. Like through the voice changer. I think I could still sense his voice through because he uses I've had him play with voice changers before when we're on mic, like on Discord and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like I've heard him through different filters.
Oh, jeez.
I think that was him. And when I bust him, he's like, oh shit.
Oh no.
I've made an error.
what? I made a mistake. So what have you been playing recently, Brandon?
Kind of like Connor said, the same kind of cycle of games. Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne, Final Fantasy 14, trying to catch up in that. That takes a lot of time, especially because it's not anything that's at my own pace either. It's like you have to go into Duty Finder and level up so you can actually do the story. So that's kind of an ongoing struggle. Here and there, I'll turn on, like, I think I mentioned earlier, Ghost in the Shell, First Assault.
Oh, I
Little,
want to play that.
Guilty pleasure. It's not good.
It's not?
No.
Oh, well. The
I
Steam
play it just
review-
because I love Ghost in the Shell.
I love Ghost in the Shell
Not
as
what
well.
it's based on, though. It's based on the standalone complex, and I'm not a big fan
Oh,
of that.
okay.
But it's still, it's basically Counter-Strike.
Yeah,
Just-
that's what I've seen like gameplay. I've looked at it. I'm like, I want to play this, but it's like, but at the same time, I have that like, but is it gonna be a lazy like
It's-
IP
it is.
just like grabbing the name tag?
Well, okay, so it's fun to play, and that's the biggest thing. Is it's fun to play. I don't like first-person shooters, but because it's Ghost in the Shell, I give it the time of day, and I do enjoy playing it. That's why it's a guilty pleasure because I'll sit there for hours going like, man, I could be being productive in Final Fantasy right now, or making a new build in Dark Souls. But instead, I'm playing Ghost in the Shell versus Assault. At least it's free to play. Like if you don't have to pay money for it, it's fun to try out.
That makes sense.
There you go. So recently, I just started playing Horizon Zero Dawn today for
I've
the
heard
first
good
time.
things.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I'm a little over an hour into it, so my opinions aren't, concrete yet, but I will completely agree. The game is beautiful. It's amazing. Hunting giant robots is fairly fun.
Until they get too big and you're like, this takes too long. It's not like Monster Hunter.
I mean, my Monster Hunter experience is not very big.
Okay.
So
Really?
I remember I would play with friends, and the only fight I can remember offhand is you're like just slashing at this gigantic thing that's just walking towards the city,
Oh, that Laoshan.
and
whatever.
you're just slicing at its tail. It's not
Yeah.
even doing anything.
That's in the first one. Congratulations. You played the original Monster Hunter.
Bam, bam.
That's my favorite.
Well, there we go. So that's the only fight I can remember offhand, and
You can
like
go
the
in with-
giant chicken thing.
Oh yeah, the cuckoo.
Yeah, the cuckoo. That's it. That's Monster Hunter to me.
That is Monster Hunter. That's Monster Hunter.
It's that and load screens.
Yeah. Not until Worlds though. Hey, we
Yeah,
got
there
a
you
few
go,
more
yeah.
months until
Yeah.
no load screens.
Man, I went back and I was playing Hunter the Reckoning on Xbox, the original Xbox. I used to love it when I was a kid.
Would you like to enlighten us?
Sure. So it's like a twin stick shooter, super over the top in terms of like how campy it is. The load times are just atrocious. I do not remember how I don't know how I could ever stand that as a
It's
kid.
like the original Bloodborne before the patch, and it
Oh,
was
my
just a Bloodborne
God.
logo. It's like, guess I'll go, take a shower and.
That that's funny. That brings me to something like speaking about just games that age. I haven't gone back to see, but there was a game that when I was in 5th grade when it came out was the Herbs Sims in the City, and I it just so happened I stumbled on Derek's review of it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was like just mad talking shit on that game. And like, do you remember the experience you had with it? If you can,
I have no idea.
it was a Sims game that was not the Sims. It's you control one Sim. It's called the Herbs Sims in the City, and it's full of like select your chat dialogue to NPCs and mini games and such. And it was funny because as a kid I remember being like, this is good, but then when he was talking about it, I was like, maybe it was kind of shitty.
I have the same kind of thought process with old games that I used to love and be addicted to and waste my life with, like Roller Coaster Tycoon 2. That game, but then you go back and play, it's like, no, this game is still fantastic.
Yeah, there's some games where it's like, even if it looks bad, it's like, no, it's still super fun.
Yeah, and it's funny because my experience with that, like I
That's
mentioned,
one-
Monster Hunter. But sorry, go ahead.
So that's one thing I don't miss about reviewing games is that sometimes when you would review a game and say something negative about it, gamers tend to identify games with their childhood in a way that I'm not sure like people with other interests do. So like if I reviewed a game that I didn't grow up with, I didn't have any sentimental attachment to, and I said, yeah, this is just kind of a lame shooter or whatever. It kind of sucks. It's really generic. The top comment would be, "This game was my childhood.
Yeah, you
Fuck
ruined
you,
my
you
life."
piece of
This was
garbage."
the first shooter I ever played.
I actually
Right.
had experience with that recently.
Yeah.
Because I grew up with Star Wars Dark Forces, like one of the first version shooters I played. And I loved it. And then I downloaded it for PS3 because I saw it was like a virtual console game. And I was showing my little brother, and he's like, "This game is terrible. It looks bad." I'm like, "No! This is my game.
You're like, no.
I love this game."
I hate how that happens, man. Just different experiences mold your opinions. But we had a caller come in. They didn't want to go over the air. They wanted to know our opinions on Final Fantasy Tactics.
Final Fantasy Tactics.
So do you guys have any experience with the game? Personally, I love it.
Unfortunately,
on the PlayStation 1, I love it, man. It's really good.
It's Final Fantasy Fire Emblem.
right.
And
Yeah, but
it's no, that's what I'm saying, and that's not a bad thing. That's my synopsis of the game.
Mine
I mean-
is, it's not my thing because I personally like Final Fantasy the way it is now.
That's
Like
like
14,
a lot of
15.
people hate Crystal Chronicles. I did not, but
interdasting.
yeah.
What?
Interdasting. What about you, Derek? Do you have any opinions either way on Final Fantasy Tactics?
Not really. I'm not like a big JRPG guy, so Final Fantasy is not my thing. I just never got into the kind of the turn-based RPG stuff.
Good, because they're not.
So I played a little.
You can play Type 0.
I played a little
15,
Final
and you're good.
Fantasy 7,
Okay.
and it never clicked with me. So I kind of never got into it.
That's there's like I liked 10, and I like it's weird though. Again, this was one of those things where it's like, but if I try to play turn-based games, I do not like them.
Yeah.
And this was when I was in 4th or 5th grade when I played 10, and it's like, would I still like it? Would I still consider a good game? And I don't know. Like,
I personally, 10 is one of my least favorite Final Fantasy games. I really don't like the characters or the story. It's up there with 13 for me. Like, I'm just not a fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
But
See, I do very much like 3, not 6, because I haven't played 6. But I mean the real 3.
No, 3 is excellent.
When it was remade on the DS,
right?
Yeah, I played it on there, and I really enjoyed that. Even like it had that kind of that old school dungeon crawl feel to it, even though it doesn't have a dungeon-esque, where you're crawling through, but it had that old school click feel to it.
And I'm glad you bring up that one, because that's the one that inspires a lot of Final Fantasy XIV. Not Heaven's Ward or Stormblood, but the original one. Even the endgame raid is the Crystal Tower, which is the whole ending sequence to 3. Same bosses and everything. It's very, very cool to see it in those graphics,
All right, so we actually have a phone call that I'm going to patch through. It's Sam. He has some questions for Derek. So let me go ahead and put him on in.
Just do it.
And Sam, you are live.
Okay. Hi, Derek.
Hello, Sam. How are you?
A few questions. Well, 2 questions, real quick. I've been through. Sorry, I've written these 2 down so I don't fumble over my words. I can't hear anyone, but I'm just gonna talk into the phone and hopefully you'll respond. I've been through Pittsburgh once as a rest stop on a trip. What does Pennsylvania and or Pittsburgh offer that you would recommend in terms of sightseeing?
Wow. Pittsburgh is actually a really cool city. Pennsylvania as a state, it's really wide. It takes a long time to drive across, and there's just a lot of woods. It's very mountainous. There's lots of forests. So if you're into hiking and outdoorsy stuff, the whole middle of the state has a lot of that to offer. But Pittsburgh, on the western side of the state, is actually this really cool. It's kind of like the East Coast Portland, a lot of people call it. It's a really kind of hip, up-and-coming city, has a great art scene, a lot of really cool cultural stuff, really good food. So Pittsburgh is a great, like, if you have a weekend trip in the summer you're looking to kill, Pittsburgh's actually a really good city for a weekend getaway. There's a lot of cool stuff to do. So yeah, I definitely recommend Pittsburgh for a visit. Philadelphia's all right. I haven't spent as much time there, but I definitely recommend Pittsburgh.
Okay. One more question. Is there any game you reviewed over the years that stood out to you as something genuinely weird or unique among the, as you said, 5 different types of games that exist or something like that?
Yeah. Man, it's right off the top. It's kind of hard because I've reviewed, like, I wish I knew the exact number. It has to be thousands of games. Trying to think of ones that really struck me as different. Sometimes it wasn't necessarily that they were a different genre, because with video games, there's only so many different ways you can control a character. There's only so many different kind of actions you can do in the game. So in terms of genre, you're kind of limited, but I was always really impressed by the way games kind of played with the idea of genre. So a platformer that happened to do some really cool, like I loved Super Paper Mario because it took the idea of a 2D platformer and then it just had this simple question of, but what if you saw the level from Mario's perspective? And then you can flip it. Something like that takes this kind of stereotypical, really cliched, played out genre and puts a new spin on it. Sometimes with gaming, that's all you need to do. You don't really need to break ground with a new genre. I don't know that there's ground to be broken with new genres. I feel like we've kind of done a lot. So Super Paper Mario comes to mind. Got it. There had to have been more.
I was thinking.
I remember playing an. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I don't know why my volume sounds interesting. BioShock, is a first-person horror game, and before that, there hadn't really been too many of those, if any.
Yeah, I loved, but BioShock's probably one of my 5 favorite games of all time.
Absolutely.
I thought that game was. I'm not like a big games or art person. Sometimes I go back and forth on that, but when I played BioShock, I thought this is as good and compelling as anything in other forms of entertainment media, like movies, TV shows. They would have a hard time standing up to BioShock. Like it's that good.
Oh, absolutely.
Just as pure entertainment.
I completely agree. So thank you, Sam, for calling in, and we really appreciate that you took the time to call us and talk to Derek, man. I hope you have a good night.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks, Derek. Bye.
Thanks, Sam. I love you.
Yeah, we could talk about BioShock
That's the other.
for a week.
I just was going to say, I'm so genuinely appreciative of everyone who watched CGR. I got to live, to get sappy here for a moment, I got to live a dream for almost 6 years. It was the best job. It was the best years of my life. And I only got to do it because people took 5-10 minutes out of their day to watch me go insane on YouTube. And
so
that,
sweet.
that is something that I will never be able to repay those people enough. So thank you, Sam, and everyone who watched, because thanks to you, I got to live a real dream. And so I'm forever in debt to all of you. So thank you to everyone who's listening, who watched, and to everyone who's calling. I love you all. Thank you very much.
That's very sweet, man, and just very genuine.
Yeah.
It's a little strange having you here on the show. It's a little surreal to me because in this age of technology that we're in, it's almost, you always feel like people who you're watching are inaccessible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just really, it's awesome to have you on the show because you always watch like your videos and you feel like you know somebody, and to actually be able to have a 2-hour-long conversation about video games is just awesome. So sincerely, thank you for coming onto the show and everybody who's calling in.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like to add to that, it's like, a lot of times you think, okay, so we're running this radio show, and so it's like things can kind of seem like, oh, it's just business, impersonal stuff. But to me, this is really cool because like that was one of the things, like I was there when you started on Undertow because I was watching Mark, and he was, one of the reviewers I watched on YouTube, and then when you came in, I was like, wow, this is cool. It's like this other guy, and I like always enjoyed watching it. So it's, to me, it's like, it's being here doing this. It's something cool to be like, this is a guy that I totally watched and, like admired on YouTube.
Exactly. So. I know like this is a radio station, we're doing a show, but to ask you to come on the show, we did it as fans first because we wanted to talk to you, the person, and not just, oh, well, we think Derek should come on because he'll be great for business. No, it's because we wanted to have a genuine conversation. So it's, sincerely, thank you from all of us here at chaoticradio.com. This isn't the end.
You guys are going to make me cry.
So this isn't the end of the show because I feel like that's the way you would end the show, but we were just kind of on the topic of it. It's just really cool because, and this is probably going to make you feel a little old. I don't know how old you are, but watching your YouTube videos was kind of my high school / childhood.
Yeah, we're the same age, so
yeah, exactly. Like, around that time, it was a little community that you could have because it wasn't as socially accepted in high school as it is in like college, because people in high school, they're just dicks. Like, let's be real, 90% of the people you talk to in high school are assholes.
Every one of them.
Exactly, right? So to be able to go to a place where, like, the reason why that episode of Danny Phantom stuck out to me is because I used to stream that game on Justin TV back when I was younger. I love that game, and it was one of the.
Really?
I did, man. I love that game. It took like, okay, so it took that game. It was like Ikaruga for kids. Like, that's the best way I can explain it. And I don't know. It's just that community. I love the CGR Undertow community because it took a mishmash of all these retro games that I love playing, but everyone else around me, even if they were into games, was like, oh yeah, man, the newest Call of Duty or Gears of War, which is fine. But I wanted to fucking talk about Danny Phantom. Where else can I talk about that?
Still the same way.
I am still the exact same way.
Oh, like, look, Horizon Zero Dawn's coming out. Oh, Nier and Neo and Abzu's coming out too.
I don't know how I worked at GameStop for 2 years, honestly.
Seriously.
Because all the time they'd be like, oh, you got to push this new Call of Duty. I'm like, yeah, but there's this new indie obscure game that's going to come out for $15, and that's all I'm going to talk about for the next 3 months. I don't know, man.
Talk about the Danny Phantom game. Go back to GameStop.
Go back to GameStop. Do you think GameStop takes in the Danny Phantom game and trade in?
Of course they do.
99 cents.
Well,
Of course.
you might get less than that, but you can still take it.
No, that's how much. Yeah, probably.
3 shekels.
3
Shekels? Not a shekel, a shekel.
The comment section on the YouTube live is they're all crying. So I guess you
Aw.
we touched them in places they like to be touched.
Called
Their hearts, their heart, you perverts.
And you know the really cool thing is I got to meet a lot of Undertow viewers, and every single one of them to a person was so cool and genuine. And I never met one person that watched the show where I thought, oh, who's this weirdo? Like, they were all really cool and fun to talk to and genuinely appreciative. And it was the best. It was the best community of people. And I love, sometimes I like when I'm out in public, someone will come up to me and say like, oh my God, you're Derek from Classic Game Room. And it's amazing to me that years later, people still remember it and still watch it, and the videos haven't been forgotten. At least some people still remember, and that makes me very happy. As sad as I am about it going away, the fact that they're still there and that people still remember definitely it makes me happy.
Yeah, and I don't ever foresee that going away. With how many videos you guys put out, like not only how many videos, but like if I'm gonna go buy fucking Ice Age 2, the video game, and I look up a review,
And you would, Andrew.
and I would because that's the type of person
It's probably
I am.
me.
It's probably you.
Right.
There's
It's probably me.
there's like 5,000 videos on CGR Undertow or something like that. Something close.
Yeah, and it's like if
Something
they're
crazy.
not gonna see him, it'll go to Mark. It's like that whole
Exactly.
It's the whole like his concept, the mission to review everything.
Yeah, exactly. So that channel will never truly go away, because no matter what, there's going to be bozos like me who want Ice Age 2 on the PlayStation 2.
But first,
Yeah.
you need a review of
Especially with the collector market that goes on now. Like people, like how people are just, they don't just buy the DS and then that's it. They'll buy the DS and try to acquire every single game that ever came out for it.
that too, but also like people seeing reviews of games like that are just nobody knows the kind of game, but it becomes popular. Like Night Trap, was that popular before people like John Tron or something reviewed it?
It was infamous.
But
not as much as it was after YouTube got a hold of it. People on YouTube
and it started becoming
reviews,
because it was always that obscure. It was that obscure. Do you see this lady naked on a Genesis game?
Yeah.
Like it was always like a fringe thing in the background. But
that's what's funny about YouTube. Like even people reviewing bad games, they become infamous, and then people want them, and then the market goes up, price goes up for collectors.
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, it'll never go away. I kind of have a question for you relating to that. Why? I mean, maybe you've already answered this, but why didn't you ever, after you left CGR Undertow, why didn't you start your own channel doing something similar? Was it just too soon? Did you not want to continue making that type of content? Or was it just something that you wanted to separate yourself because it was such a big part of your life?
No, I'm asked that a lot. Like, why don't you just start your own new show? In fact, just last week on Twitter, someone asked me, and I guess the answer is kind of complicated. I would do it tomorrow, but I'm kind of torn. I don't want to do it if I can't do it better than I did it before. If I'm doing it and it's less good and I'm doing it just to do it, I feel like it's pointless. I wouldn't want to, like, I don't know. I just kind of the creativity in me. I would want it to be better. If it's not better, I don't see a point in doing it. And when I worked at CGR, like I said, that was a company backing me. So I had literally everything that I needed, that I could have ever needed to shoot those videos. I had multiple cameras. I had equipment. I had a full suite of editing software and computers, and I just had everything I needed. And right now I've got a laptop and a phone, and it would be hard for me. maybe it wouldn't be because, you know, like we said earlier, kind of technology's evolved. I'm sure my phone can do everything all that stuff could do 10 years ago. But there's just, I don't know. I would hate to just do something on my phone and have it not be as good. So that there's that. And then there's also just CGR Undertow was my life for so long. It was what I did full time every day. It was my full-time job. So, you know, it's how I made my living. And for me to do it again and not be able to do that, I wouldn't be able to put as much time, you know, into it as I did before, when it could be my life because financially it provided for me. If CGR Undertow was the roof over my head, it was the food in my stomach, you know? So to not, to do something and not be able to spend full time on it, I wouldn't want to do it if it was half baked. And so I don't know. I do have some mixed feelings about it. I'm starting to think about doing it and maybe like funding it on Patreon or something. I'm starting to just kick around some ideas because I do miss it. Like I said, every day of my life, I wish I could go back and do more on Undertow, but you know, we'll see. I don't rule it out for sure.
You totally don't have to answer this, so I'll preface this by saying that. But does this channel work the same way like TV does? Do you still get residual checks for like 70 cents? Like, because you hear that all the time. Someone who was on 90210 or 90, what's that damn show called?
90210.
Thank you. From like 10 years ago, they get like 60-cent checks in the mail or whatever the hell.
I don't know how much I can say about that, except to say, no, I'll just say no. I don't get. Okay. I do not.
Like,
I do not.
It was totally, like I said, that's totally fine. I was just curious. Well,
and one thing I can say that I get a lot of questions. People always say, "Why don't you just keep doing Undertow? Why don't the channel's still there? Why don't you add content to it?" Mm-hmm. I don't own it. It's not mine. I just work there. Yeah. You know, if I owned it, I would do it tomorrow. But I don't. You know, that's not a question for me. I literally cannot. So if I would do something, it would have to be a whole new thing. But again, it's something I'm definitely thinking about.
Yeah, you should name your new channel DGR, Derek's Game Room. Right?
TGR, oh God. Right? Well, I thought about Under 2 instead of Undertow, Under 2. Under 2, Electric Boogaloo.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know. That in there.
That's great, man. Man, your reviewing style totally influenced probably all of us here. I mean, me and Connor, Brandon never really got into that side of YouTube, I don't think,
Keep
right?
to myself.
Yeah, you're...
I watch a lot of YouTube, watch a lot of reviews on YouTube.
He's like, he prefers Mike, and that'll work, and being back there.
Yeah, I'll sit in the back row.
But, yeah, the thing about both just the classic game room, there was definitely the, like, even though like you say it was daily grind work, you know, all that, there was definitely the personal feel to it, where it's like it doesn't feel like you said earlier, it's not this serious, you know, game review like we're super serious business formal type guys. It felt like you were like just chilling with you guys, especially how, you know, Mark always pours his beer. and is just chilling there, and then with you, it's like, hey, it's like you're hanging out with you, and that's always what I liked about it. It's like it had this you're just chilling with the guys, and they're talking about games. So
yep,
yeah, I always wanted the reviews to be very conversational, and you know what? If I skip a review point that other sites would make sure to hit, fine, whatever. I would sacrifice that for the sake of something conversational. And if putting it in there that I have to talk about the frame rate or whatever, you know, if that's going to interrupt the flow of the conversation and make it feel forced, then I'm just not going to talk about it, because there are a million websites talking about it. I'm going to just talk. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to talk to you about the game.
They're staring at me because I always go on about frame rates, but
all he cares about is graphics.
Well, see, because as he puts it, you know, like okay, there's bullet points that people make, and he's saying if it's a bullet point that doesn't matter to him, then there you go.
Exactly.
Whereas to me, it's like, you know, in my case, that ends up being a bullet point that I actually care about.
I guess
it's not. It's
Yeah.
Like, it's like it's not like okay, I don't want to say the way with where it's like, oh, it has to be that way, because that doesn't break games for me. Like, you know, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, as he was speaking, is 30 frames per second, and it did not kill the game. I put well over 100 hours in it.
Bloodborne is 30 frames.
What it always brings up to me, like the only reason that ever comes up to me is when they could have done it, and it seems like there's not a reason that it should have done that.
But it doesn't affect the gameplay at all.
It like to a degree. That's the only time. Like there's certain ones where it's like, okay, the game slowed down. Like it's like there's a point where it feels wonky to me. Like if it's just like noticeable, like.
Okay.
Like, let's go with, like when you look at Star Fox, there was moments where in that game it just slowed to a crawl.
Well, that's different. Between, like, 30 and 60, yeah, 30 is kind of what we're used to. 60 is the newer,
if
like,
I'm doing a review, though, I won't knock a game if it won't make 120 and it dropped to 60. like that won't
expect you to do that.
Yeah, that won't be. For me, it's just I will casually in a conversation be like, yeah, but it does this and it annoys me sometimes. Yeah.
All right, so we got a phone call from Logan. He wants to ask you a question, Derek. Let me go ahead and patch him on through. Logan, you are live.
Okay, so I had one question. If you could take any previous Nintendo console and make it portable, what would it be and why?
Ooh. Oh, man. That's a really good question. I've never thought of that. That I would have to say, I want to say the GameCube, but the GameCube had a handle, so I feel like it's already portable.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the Super Nintendo.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool.
The reason is, I feel like the Super Nintendo has a lot of games that are very pick up and play, which I think is very conducive to portable gaming. If I'm sitting in a waiting room for 20 minutes and I want to tear through some Super Mario World, I could do that where, you know, I guess you could do it with some of the 3D Mario games, but it doesn't have that kind of immediacy and that jump in, jump out kind of feel. I feel like a lot of 16-bit games have that. So I think for a practical reason, I think the Super Nintendo, and also I do think it's probably the greatest console ever made. So to be able to take that on the go, that's also a perk. But that's a great question. I would definitely say the Super Nintendo.
So could you see yourself playing a portable SNES back in like 95 or something?
Oh my God, yeah. If I could have taken Donkey Kong Country to school with me, that would have been it. That would have been over. I wouldn't be here today because I would have failed out. I would have failed out of school. I would have gone to some kind of like home for wayward youth. You know, I've just been like in a rubber room playing Mega Man X on my portable Super Nintendo.
Oh,
so thank
man,
God that
awesome.
never happened. We got the Virtual Boy instead.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you for calling in, Logan.
No problem. Thanks.
All right, you have a great night, okay?
Hey, you too.
See you, Logan.
All right, that was really cool. You know, that was going to be my answer, was the Virtual Boy, just to be
The
a
Virtual
smart
Boy.
ass. I want all 16 titles on the go, or whatever, however many there are.
When he asked that question, I was like, my mind was like Super Nintendo, GameCube. I was like,
I thought Super Nintendo, but then I was like,
then
well, the Game Boy Advance was...
the Game Boy
you know,
Advance
had
had a lot of Super
titles.
Nintendo ports, yeah.
So.
Which
Oh yeah, that's
it
yeah,
worked,
that's a good point.
But it's like at the same time, it's like just the thought of which one, like that's what I think boils down. It's like, yes, the GBA did have Super Nintendo titles, but just going off of the raw input, yeah, the Super Nintendo, like I kind of was talking about this with a friend once, is if you could only have one console forever and you only get that console's library, which console would you take? And I was like,
The PlayStation 4?
he was going with like, well, because we took out not remakes but ports. We took out like if they just took the game and threw it on there. So like PS3 does not get the entire PS1 library.
Right.
But
there are still a lot of exclusive titles to PS3.
Yeah, there are.
Demon Souls.
Like that's actually what he went with was PS3, he's like mostly because of BioShock. For me,
there you go.
I went with the Super Nintendo because I was like, that just feels like the most like replayable desert island can keep you occupied deal.
Honestly, I'd probably go with the PlayStation 3. I mean, I got Dark Souls, Demon Souls, like you said, BioShock Infinite, even.
Yeah.
I would 100% go with the PS2.
Okay.
It has it has the biggest game library. First of all,
it's gigantic. Yes.
Biggest
but
of all
it has
time.
Monster Hunter. So
it has Monster Hunter. It has
got Tony
Resident
Hawk.
Evil 4, Tony Hawk. I'm a big MLB guy. Like I love MLB the Show. As you guys know, it has those. It has Yu-Gi-Oh.
Ratchet and Clank,
It has literally
Jack and Daxter.
everything I would ever want.
Huge.
Exactly. And then like when I'm feeling lonely and desperate, it has those
Kingdom
Japanese
Hearts.
only, RPGs.
Super Nintendo had those too, actually.
Yeah, but like
In a weird way.
those square, those squares.
Yeah. That's why I say actually. Like it just so happens that they did. It's odd, but they did.
Hey, I feel like you just earned your nerd points today. You're like, well, actually,
you understand. They did have Japanese porn games on the Super Nintendo.
But,
man. Yeah, so it's kind of cheating, but I think that would be my answer to the other question too. Like, if I could have a PS2 on the go, though
But
I
it was
do
Nintendo,
agree. I know, like I
was
said, it's cheating.
Yeah.
But I will have to agree with you. I think out of all the options on Nintendo, Super Nintendo would be the best. For Derek's reasoning is that I can just pick up and play a Super Mario World level. Where if I have an N64 or a GameCube and I'm playing like Super Mario Sunshine or something, it's going to take me a little while to get to a place where I can save, most likely.
Yeah.
Right.
I think as a testament, just personal experience too, is because I play a lot of handhelds, and I'm one of the 3 people who has a Vita, and I played PSP and all, like GBA, DS, everything. Like I really enjoy handhelds. But what's funny is, oftentimes the thing I carry the most to just play portable is a PSP with
you had Monster
with
Hunter.
Super Nintendo emulators on it.
But you also had Monster Hunter.
Yeah, you're also the only person I ever met that was it a PSP Go?
PSP Go, yeah.
You own a PSP Go.
Yeah.
That thing failed so hard, yet you own one.
I do.
So did the Vita.
I do. And I still use it on a quasi-weekly basis. Like it's not even collecting dust.
No, I went over to your house and
it was on my desk.
It was on your desk, and I'm just like, wow, you must really like Sony handhelds.
I do.
I like Sony
I'm
holding
bummed
my
that
hand.
the Vita did not do as well as it should have, I think.
Well, the PSP did pretty well.
Yeah, the PSP piracy was the death of the PSP.
Right.
Which I don't like. That's the thing. I'm all for emulators, especially if you own the old classic games, like having a Super
You're all
Nintendo
for it
class.
as long as it's legal.
But, yeah, it's like
not.
Well, emulating is if you own the solid copy.
Yeah, you pull your own ROM.
But the I don't support piracy of new games. I think it's like with PSP that destroyed the PSP, and then it's not the thing that's destroying the Vita though is the lack of marketing and those memory cards being.
Well, it's only not
ridiculous.
popular here. Like in Japan, it sells a market, which is why everything
Everyone
is
has one in Japan.
a JRPG on the console.
Yeah.
See, I just pulled up an article from Games Radar, and it said, this was from 2011. It says PSP Go sold 14 units in Japan last week. No, not thousands, just 14.
Nice.
That was an 11. That it came out in 2009, I believe, October-ish. So it's only 2 years after.
Sure. I love this article. All right, so I'm going to go down the list, all right? In this week in 2011, it's a little random, but the 3DS sold 23,000 copies in that week. The PSP sold 178, PS3 422, Wii 1,169, a DSi Lite 188. The original DS sold 132, a PS2 sold 96 copies, and all the way down at the bottom was the PSP Go with 14. 14!
Yikes.
When the PS2 outsells you in 2011...
Hey, that's why it's still the top-selling console of all time.
Right? Yeah. People were still buying it back then. I remember, what was the last game that came out for PS2? Like FIFA 14 or something? 15?
That late?
Yeah, something recent. Fairly recent.
It was surprisingly, it was what? Yeah, and I believe it was FIFA. Because I don't think it was. Yeah, the show they stopped on.
Oh, wasn't it
a
in
long time
The
ago.
show they stopped like 12, I think.
Yeah, but it's surprising. The PS2 had a lifetime.
Yeah,
Like,
FIFA 14 was the last game that
Yeah,
was
had
a
released.
lot of good
So
games.
3 years ago.
3 years ago, PS2 finally died. Like
That's insane to me. Like, because they're already talking about the PS5. That's going to be coming out in like 2019,
I don't want it.
2020.
I'm still having fun with my gold PS4.
I know that you just got less than a year ago.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's man, consoles. I still respect Sony, but they used to try to make like 10-year life cycles,
Right. And they
at the
still
very
tried
least,
to.
and they still try to.
Yeah.
But it's like when the PS5 comes out, I really feel like the PS4 is just gonna go on the wayside.
I'm gonna keep it.
kind of like
I
the
still have my
PS3
PS3.
did. It's
Yeah, like
people still keep their PS3
Because it's not backwards
There's-
compatible.
Right.
Like, if it was
Exactly.
backwards compatible on the PS4, I wouldn't have a PS3.
there's still some new releases that come out on PS3. Like a lot of JRPG developers
Yeah,
still
Persona
come
came
out.
out.
Like Persona came out recently, and the sports games still come out.
I
But
don't think the new ones are.
No?
I think the problem with consoles now is just strictly the technology runs past them. Whereas before, like especially when you look at 16-bit, it could go on, and then but now it's like they can only do so much technology wise. Where that's the reason why Destiny started on 360 and PS3, but then the final DLC didn't come out for it because it couldn't support it.
I hate that. Just because, like, if you're gonna release something
Finish
like
it.
that, finish it.
Yeah.
It would be like if they took the Telltale games and they're like, well, episodes 1 and 2 are on this console, but to finish the story, gotta upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that feels like some bullshit to
Oh,
me.
yeah.
So real quick, let's go ahead and run down some releases that are going to be coming out in this next week. Knack 2 is being released on September 5th.
Sweet.
Oh god, I can't pronounce this. Utawarerumono, Mask
Oh.
of Truth.
I thought that was already out. Oh, Mask of Deception is out.
Is coming out on PS4 and Vita on the 5th. Good job, you. Destiny 2 is having its full release on September
Consoles,
6th, I believe. Morfight is coming out on September 7th. Drive Girls is coming out on the Vita on September 8th. Lego Worlds is coming out on the Switch on
Yeah.
September 8th. And Monster Hunter Stories is coming out on 3DS on the 8th.
Like I just realized, I think we're gonna be here on my birthday next week, the
Yeah.
7th. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool,
Nice.
man.
Just happens.
So out of all those, I mean, again, here comes my hipster views, but like Knack 2.
I can't tell if you're being facetious or not.
I'm not. Like, I'm actually genuinely excited for it.
I know
Have
you are.
Have you? What's your opinion on Knack, Derek?
Do you have an
Do you
opinion
have an
on
opinion?
Knack?
Have you played Knack or?
There was a big gap in his playing
I-
time.
Well, you see, as now that I'm living the Switch life, if it's not on the Switch, I don't even know what it is.
Bam.
So you'll have to fill me in. I don't have a PS4 or an Xbox One.
Okay,
It
so
was a-
And
Knack-
so that
PS4
is like a
launch.
yeah, Knack was a PS4 launch title. It was like a 3D platformer.
Knack, like Knack.
Yes.
I know
Yeah.
that game.
Yeah, that one. The second one
Okay.
is being released next month. Now that you know what it is, do you have an opinion on it or not so much?
Well, I feel like the first one kind of came and went. I didn't play it, but I remember when it came out, Mark played it, and he was very just kind of like, "Shmeh, it's fine."
Exactly.
That's how. That's
Which I feel
yeah. Go ahead. I was like, that's how.
I feel like that was kind of what a lot of people said.
Oh yeah, I agree. The
But
second
like I said, I didn't play it, so I don't know.
it didn't warrant a sequel like at all. But it's one of those games that's gonna come out, and I will get it eventually.
You'll be
It's-
the only one.
No, I was
Right.
probably the only one that pre-ordered in full that paid for Abzu.
Maybe. No, that's.
Stephanie did.
What?
Yeah.
So someone in our circle did?
Yes.
Wow.
I mean,
Because Journey
Yeah,
was
Journey's
amazing,
incredible.
and it got Game of the Year from several
Okay, that's
major
fair.
publishers.
That's fair.
and that game company is more well known than
Yeah.
the game Knack.
I don't.
So
I mean,
absolutely-
we talked about this last week. Knack sold like 4 or 5 million
Yeah, we
copies.
talked about it.
That's
it was
because there were no
bundled.
games when PS4 came out.
No, and
Yeah.
it was bundled with the.
I
the
know.
Yeah, it was
alright.
bundled. Yeah.
All right. So the only Switch game that's coming out next week is Lego Worlds. Is that something that interests any of you Switchers, Derek or Connor?
You like Minecraft?
Yeah, that's the Minecraft
Meh.
Lego game, but
Meh.
I don't know if I'm going to be getting it because it's like
It's Minecraft.
Yeah, but I'd just rather
You already
play
have Minecraft, yeah.
So.
Yeah, but it's Lego.
Yeah, but I'd rather play with my real Legos. I actually have. This is funny. I have several of the Minecraft Lego sets.
That's not funny.
That's not funny.
It's funny.
It's
It's funny in
just
the.
depressing.
It's funny in the. I'm a grown man playing with Legos in a sad room by
But not
myself
exactly.
on a table.
But
Not
the
funny,
age goes up to
haha,
99.
Yeah,
88.
Oh, 88?
8 to 88.
It's not funny as in haha. It's
Haha.
funny as in like
It's funny as
look
in,
at your life.
Look at that man. Look at him play with his Legos based on a game that children love.
Oh, it's funny.
I don't like Minecraft, and you know that.
Yeah, I know.
It's-
You don't either?
A lot of
Good.
people don't, and
It's-
I'm very willing to accept that I am in that. And you know, there's a little bit to it too, because this is very hipster sounding right here. I did not
boy.
get into the game when it was like, oh, this is fucking Minecraft. Everyone play it. It's the most amazing game. I got Minecraft when it was €2, and it was like the most like basic. Hey, look, this guy in his garage in the Netherlands made a game.
Nice.
And it was like, oh, this is really neat. And I just, like when I was younger, I was always obsessed with like architecture and building and all that. So when I was, in high school, and I was like, wow, this guy made this game where you can just build. And then it was not only that you build and just, grab whatever unlimited resources, you actually go and collect them. So and it just kept growing. And then I thought that it would. I totally did not see it exploding.
Neither did I.
And like a couple of us, my buddy Nate and Rob, it's like we had our little server. I was playing on an E machine that my grandma gave me.
Nice.
And it was like we had the Brotress, and it was this game that we were playing that not many people have heard of. And then it was like, boom! It's the biggest indie game ever made.
That's like what built YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Those Minecraft videos.
Yeah.
PewDiePie's first ever video was a Minecraft video, I think.
Wow.
Right?
I thought it was Happy Wheels, but
No,
I know
that-
that one was a big one. But
Isn't that Jacksepticeye's first? No, Jacksepticeye. That's what made him super popular. Do you even know who that is, Connor?
I've heard of him, yeah. But
Oh boy.
it's-
Uh-oh.
But I
Can
will
you
say
play
though,
that one video you showed me?
Forgot to play a video.
Because he doesn't. Okay. So
I'll,
I don't
just,
really
I'll show
like-
you his intro real
Yeah,
quick. or
I'm
I'll
not
play
the
it.
biggest fan of Jack, but I'm a fan of his friends like Markiplier and whatnot. But there is a really funny video Andrew decided to show me.
Okay.
When we were supposed to be working.
Before,
Yeah.
while you're searching it, Derek, do you have an opinion on that Minecraft?
Oh, goodness
That
gracious.
Yeah.
When do you think of the Minecraft,
So,
Derek?
I sat down to play it, and I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And I was told, whatever you want to do. And I was like, well, but I want to do what I'm supposed to do. And they're like, well, that you just do. And it was like, I had like an existential crisis. I didn't know what the hell to do.
I can do anything,
Like-
so I shouldn't do anything.
I was really
Like, I could-
hoping that would just go.
So
to,
right.
I was saying I was really hoping you'd just be like, what do you do?
Being
Put
it,
the controller down.
Put it down and go. Yeah. Go ahead.
that's literally what I did. There were too many possibilities, so I sat down the controller and walked away. It was too much. But
See, no Emma Watson, 0 out of 10.
but
No, I'm Watson.
He could
Right.
put Emma Watson.
I mean, I have a pretty. We were talking about rubrics for game reviews. Mine's pretty simple. Is it Mega Man? Okay. Does it have Emma Watson in it? That's like strike two. So Minecraft was already.
Mine's very
Minecraft was
similar.
already in trouble,
Is it-
and then. Then it had me questioning my existence and is there a God?
Does
And
it-
I just had to
See,
walk
I
away.
Does this game cause an existential
Right.
crisis?
I would love if CGR Undertow was still like running a Minecraft video with like in the height of you going crazy. I would love to see a sketch based on your actual interactions with this game where you just pick it up, you put it down, you're like, I could do anything. And you just run to 7-Eleven, I could do anything. And I know.
No, I like the other way around where he's sitting there contemplating, like, what do I do? I can do anything. What is there a God? I am God. I can create anything.
This season, I feel like this skit has to be made now. Like there just has to be you sitting there, play Minecraft, and then all these like options come through, and it changes scenes, and it has him doing all these amazing
Right.
Until you have a
things.
panic attack.
And then the
you're
scene
underneath
comes
the-
back to him going, and just putting the controller down and walking away.
If you ever start your own channel, that's got to be your video now.
That
just
has to
your
be a
first
video.
video where that's just it, where you just Minecraft finally, and then that's it.
No, this will be your comeback. It'll be where have you been all these years?
And just stuck in Minecraft.
Not stuck in. Contemplating
what
but
he should
not
do.
doing.
Yeah.
Just the Minecraft. He's like, okay, I don't want to do this.
All right, so I have.
And you know
oh, no, go ahead.
The
man.
worst part is, real quick. The worst part is that, like, as I'm sitting there trying to figure out what's going on, this little kid that, I mean, I don't know how old, like 5 or 6, comes up and grabs the controller and just starts doing stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, where are your parents? How do you know what's happening?
You're ruining my world.
I never felt more old in my life. I was like, I just want this to be side-scrolling, and like it really did give me an existential crisis. So my opinion on Minecraft has yet to be formed.
That's amazing. All right, I got this intro for you. I got this. Here we go.
Oh.
I'm not gonna let it keep going.
It goes up to 1 million?
Yeah, it does. All right, so we're coming up near the end of the show. I have a really cool announcement to make. Starting next week, we're going to be starting a segment called the Indie Game Club. It's like a book club, but for indie games. So basically, how it's going to work is I'm going to bring up the first game. We're going to be playing Calvino Noir, which was a game that was released in 2015. It's a noir-style stealth game. It's super cool. We're going to discuss it next week as a roundtable, and then Connor will introduce the game he wants to bring in the week after that. And we're going to keep going like that until we make a rounds. It's really cool, and I'm going to try to get the developer from Calvino Noir on the show with us next week to talk about the game with us. We'll see. He's in the UK, so there might be some time issues. It's like 3 a.m. there when we record, so... But yeah, we're going to be doing that next week. We're also going to have Shattered Melody on with us in studio, Sean and Livy. They are a cool punk band, an acoustic punk band. Sean's a big gamer, Livy, but we're gonna talk some games. They're gonna have a live performance in studio. That's super cool. And before we go, man, again, really from the bottom of everyone's hearts here at Chaotic Radio, we want to say thank you for coming on, Derek.
Very much.
You were an amazing guest. We would love to have you on again, and I'm putting you on the spot over the air. So if you say yes, I have evidence that says so. And before you go, man, is there anything you want to shout out? Is there anything you want to bring attention to? Again, where can people find you, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be on. This was a blast. Anytime you guys want me on, just hit me up. You guys can follow me on Twitter. I am at Death by Derek, DEREK. I tweet about Emma Watson, death metal, and tacos, and the occasional Switch rant. And like I said, hopefully I will have some projects. I don't know when. I'm not going to say listen, I don't know what the hell's going on, but the point is, if I have anything to announce, it will definitely be on Twitter. But yeah, this was a blast. Thanks for having me on, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, of course, man. And they can also reach you at derekbuck.com. Is that still active, right?
Yeah, that is my personal portfolio. I use that for applying for jobs and stuff. It's kind of just got my bio and a collection of some of my work. So if you're familiar with my CGR work and you want to see some of the older stuff I've done, there's older stuff on there. It's got some of the podcasts I've done in the past, a lot of my CGR videos, articles I've written for different sites. So yeah, derekbuck.com has a lot of my work and other crap.
Nice.
Sounds great, man. Real quick before we go, Connor or Brandon, is there anything you guys want to bring attention to?
I have no idea what I want to say right now.
Okay,
Derek?
cool.
Yeah.
Brandon?
You pointed at Brandon and said Derek.
I did.
Good job.
I messed up.
I got nothing at the moment.
All right, cool, man. So from everyone here at Chaotic Radio, thank you for listening in to the Kinda Gaming Show with Andrew, Connor, and Brandon, and our special guest, Derek Buck. And again, thank you, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.